Welcome to the Upshot, Ultra-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield on this Wednesday, September 20th. Tomorrow begins the U.S. Women's Disc Golf Championship. It's the last major capital M of the season for FPO. And Kristin Tattar has a chance to make history. She can get the first ever single season Grand Slam in FPO history, with the caveat that it's in a season with at least 4 majors. JK did with 2 majors in a year. That's not enough majors to call it a Grand Slam, right, Josh?
No, I don't think so either.
I don't think so.
No disrespect to JK.
And it's not fair. It's not fair because
Right.
JK, if there had been 4 majors, probably would have gotten a Grand Slam. But certainly we can call it the modern era Grand Slam. She's got a chance to be the first. She'd be the first player to do it since Macbeth did it back in the middle of the 2010s. So very exciting, but she's got her work cut out for her, Josh, because the course that they're playing this weekend at Cedarock Park, called the Regulator, is no joke. This is not the U.S. women's courses of a year ago. Mm-hmm. And we will take a look at some of the holes and talk more about that later in the show. But before we get to that, we got to talk about what's going on down in Georgia. The PDGA announced that they are going to have extensive tree removal at the IDGC, 29 acres of IDGC property, which will affect all of their disc golf courses, including WR Jackson, which is where they play the Champions Cup, are going to have a lot of trees removed due to pine beetle infestation. These things are the worst. Mm-hmm. And basically the only thing you can do is take the trees out and get rid of them. That's the best way to deal with these bugs. Pesticides don't work as well. If you leave trees in, then they just kill all your trees instead of just some of the trees that are infested. So this is going to be a terrible loss because both of their courses, Jim Warner and WR Jackson, are basically going to be ruined by this, and they're going to have to rebuild entirely new courses. Josh, they say they're planning to have at least 2 championship courses and a beginner course as well on the new property. Tree removal begins soon. The IDGC is going to be closed for 5 to 6 weeks, it sounds like. And subsequently, they have also announced that they are going to move the Champions Cup from its normal April slot into late October, early November of next year, Josh. Your thoughts on losing this course, a classic, and what it means for the Champions Cup?
Obviously, it's a devastating blow. It's a course that we highlight as being a really unique one in disc golf. The fair, rough, and the good fairways with a obviously storied course. I mean, you can watch coverage on Jomez going back to mid 2010s of tournaments being held at this course, and has been the home of some incredible tournaments. So from a history side, it's obviously devastating to lose this course. From a competitive aspect, it's been an excellent course, though the opportunity to build a new course with spectators in mind may be an interesting opportunity. And if tree removal is already happening, as you're building hole 18, for example, just point out the section you need to cut out a little bit and make this something that's adapted for spectators as well.
Possibly a blessing in disguise, in at least in some ways.
In the long run, yes. I think it could be. But that being said, this tournament is just home to the worst ideas in disc golf. And and a major on October 31st next year is right up there. I hate that so much. There are not words to describe how much I hate how late that is in the year. Couple of reasons why. Number one, nothing matters until July again. We're back to the case where we start the season in February, and the first major we get is going to be, we have U.S. Women's will be in March. And then after that, we don't have anything until the European Open.
No FPO Majors until mid-July.
Yeah. That's so terrible. Like, we're literally going to be like, who's the front runner for the player of the year in June? And it's going to be, well, it doesn't matter because not a single major's happened yet.
Yeah, look, first of all, I empathize with the PDGA. It's a terrible situation. You hate to have your property disrupted like this. You know, long run, I kind of want to see them maybe buy some property and build, like, the PDGA should probably buy some other places and put championship courses on them, land that they actually own and control. Now, that there's nothing you can do about the pine beetle. The pine beetle doesn't care where you draw the lines of who owns the property.
Yep.
And it sounds like they have a very reasonable deal with the county, and I'm sure things will continue to get better on that front. So, this is their home for the foreseeable future. But I just feel like there's two things that I'm hoping for out of this. Number one, that they bring in a great course designer and don't just hire some crony or whatever. Mm-hmm. I like, should John Houck be able to come in and design the new course on this property, or at least one of the new courses on this property, as he was the original designer of WR Jackson? But I hear that there's some friction there. I don't know if he's going to be invited back. And that would be too bad, because I feel like what you should do is be like, okay, we have to start fresh here, but we have the same land. Mm-hmm. Can we recreate a course that is similar, that has a similar feel to WR Jackson, right, with things like spectators in mind and like a slightly updated, more modern approach to course design? And you have a chance to make the holes longer or harder to match today's game, all that.
Yep.
But, regardless of whether they go with Houck or somebody else, please bring in somebody who's great to do this work, especially if you're planning to take the time to, really take your time to make it good. I have no issue with that. It would be crazy for them to try to jam out a course and play it in April.
That's true.
So that, I think, is clear. The problem is, I don't like the decision to try to put the tournament at their new course in October, after USDGC.
After the Pro Tour Championship.
It's really simple. Go to another course in the South in April and run the Champions Cup then. And they still have a chance to do that and make it right, the same way that they made the decision to bail on going to D-Glow for Champions Cup, and the same way they bailed on doing the insane format for this tournament. They still have a chance to make the decision to have this in the spring, because it fits so much better in the calendar. Mm-hmm. It gives balance to the season. And I'm telling you right now, no one is going to care about the Champions Cup if they have it on Halloween. Okay? Sure, the players will probably go, but they might not all go. Mm-hmm. And the fans are just not going to be as into it. I promise. I guarantee it. It's way too late in the year to be having a major. Look at the other sport. Tennis and golf finish their majors by the beginning of September. You have the US Open tennis. Golf is already done. Golf has finished their majors in like July. No one is playing big tournaments, individual sport tournaments, in September, October, November. Because they're not trying to go up against the NFL and the Major League Baseball playoffs. And this is actually like a long run thing that disc golf probably needs to think about, is like, do we really want to have this season so backloaded up against the big sports of the fall, kids going back to school, all of that? Like, disc golf is a summer sport, and it probably needs to slide earlier, not later, and match the rhythms of what you see in golf. So I implore the PDGA not to make the decision to force us to have to do this tournament in November. Take the year. We will all understand that you can't have it at the IDGC this year. Take the time to make that course as good as it needs to be, because you're probably not going to be able to just jam it out in 6 months and have it ready to go to be a major quality course. And just have it at another course in the area. There's plenty of courses around. Whether you want to go South Carolina, Georgia, North Carolina, down in Florida, there are options.
I love the idea of doing it down in Florida. I think that's an area that we don't.
McSeese, baby.
Yeah, we don't see a lot of tournaments, well, especially on the Pro Tour, obviously down in Florida.
We've hardly ever had a tour stop in Florida.
Yeah.
We had Tallahassee Silver, and I think that's it. Well, no, there were some Pro Tour championships in Jacksonville back in the Dodge era.
Okay, whatever. But I love the idea of putting it in Florida. But this. Oh man, it feels funny because when they said that they were going to do it at the Iglo, we were like, oh, I hate that idea. And now there's a chance they're like, okay, we hear you. You like this course. You like this property. We'll just push it later. And we're like, absolutely not. Like, we have priorities, man. Number one is where it's at on the schedule. Number 2 is the calendar. Actually, that's
that was part of the Iglo problem, right? It was like, why move away from the spring?
Yeah.
When it feels so good in the spring and it's at a great course that everybody likes. So I hope that they still make that change. You know,
Please.
I think we're probably going to know about the schedule for next year pretty soon. So I don't know how long they actually have to wait to make a call before they have to kind of just commit to the 2024 schedule. But there's still time.
Please. I'm just
everybody who texted me about this was like, this is a horrible idea.
It is.
I got multiple messages being like, this is terrible. That's exactly how I felt.
Man, the fact that Champions Cup has been as good as it is a miracle because they have tried so hard to kneecap this event. And fortunately, they've backed off and done it properly.
And like, what's the Pro Tour going to do if this tournament is in November? Are they going to wait to have the Pro Tour Championship? Or are we really going to go USDGC Pro Tour Championship, and then 2 weeks later, like at a brand new untested course, play the Champions Cup?
Well,
it's gonna feel like I don't know, it's like Christmas in July, like some bizarre out of place.
What about like DGN camera operators? Like that's their off season.
I know. I just none of it makes sense. I get why they want to host the tournament at IDGC. I get why they want to have the core. But like, think about it this way. You're still going to get to have the tournament at the new course just a few months after you were planning to originally do it, right?
I didn't even think about that.
It's only like 4 months later that you're going to be able to have it there. And like, think about that, right? We would play Champions Cup in November, and then like 4 months later, we play it again. That's terrible. It's terrible. Don't do it. God. PDGA, don't do it. Listen to me, please.
Please don't do this. Oh, man.
Anyway, I don't want to over focus on this part of it because I do feel bad about the fact that they have to, you know, it must feel very powerless. You know, you're like,
sure.
We have these courses and this was like our vision to have it here forever and ever. And you're sort of have your hand forced by this terrible beetle.
Yeah.
But you know, I like what you said first, Josh. They have a chance to rethink how they want to build these courses with the idea that they're going to be hosting a major championship there with thousands of people.
Yep.
And that's an opportunity that they wouldn't have otherwise had.
Correct.
So that's pretty cool.
That is cool.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're talking U.S. Women's, Cedarock Park, the Regulator, and Kristin's battle for a year Grand Slam. We'll be right back. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. When Cole Redallen dropped by Pound HQ to pick out the colors for his signature Rufus, he also asked that the long pockets get converted into hall pockets. Pound created the double convertible Rufus. Cole's signature Rufus also features double cell phone pockets and double lower zippered side pockets, as well as Velcro receiving patches and a matching Cole Redallen patch. The double convertible Rufus also comes standard with one insulated hall pocket insert to keep your beverages protected and cold. So head over to PoundDiscGolf.com, get yourself a Pound bag today. Welcome back to the Upshot. The U.S. Women's Disc Golf Championships get started tomorrow down in North Carolina. It's at the Regulator, a course inside of Cedarock Park. It's challenging. technical. A lot of woods, a lot of skinny gaps, a lot of little trees littering fairways, danger zone. We're going to see some tough kicks out there, I think. But there's some open holes too, Josh. It's not just pure woods. There's some big open bomber field shots, some water carries. Pretty interesting overall. Before we talk about the course more, just want to point out, right? So Kristin Tattar, she's already got the career slam, as she's now won all of the 4 majors. Of course, she got the first 3 this year. She won the U.S. Women's Tournament the last time she played it, back in 2019. That was her first major. So she is going now for the Grand Slam in a single year, and off she goes as she tries to make history and cement what would be probably, I don't want to say it yet, but this has a chance to be the greatest season in FPO history.
With our emphasis of the majors, the competitive field that we have, winning of all 4 majors is going to be such an amazing accomplishment that is going to be very, very difficult for somebody else to replicate. I think there are a couple other tournaments that really could cement it. The Super Slam that involves the Throw Pink Championship as well as the Pro Tour Championship. If she were to win all 3 of those events to close out the year, I think you have a pretty strong case for one of the best years of FPO play ever.
It's going to be pretty exciting to try to see it happen. I think it's not the optimized course for Kristin to win. I mean, not that she can't win anywhere. I mean, we know that she can, but I think that the technicality of it means that it could open up the doors to other people. But challengers are in the mix, Josh. We've got Hailey King defending her title. Of course, Owen Scoggins can be lethal on a technical course like this. Missy Gannon has been playing great. And, who knows? We could see a wood specialist maybe challenge this weekend. Do you feel like, where do you feel like Kristin's chances are here with knowing that there's the additional pressure of needing to try to complete this Grand Slam?
Man, it's interesting because I want to say we've seen cracks in Kristin's game, but those cracks are still 1,000+ rated, right? Remember with Missy Gannon, for example, so Kristin wins Worlds and it feels kind of close, right? That Kristin kind of left opportunities on the table, but Missy Gannon's 1,004 rated Worlds is the highest FPO major loss. It's the field is starting to play up to Kristin. Right. They're not there yet by any means, but they are playing up. And so UDisc has her at a 79% win probability. I think there's some additional pressure, but around 75% feels right to me. It's not a completely foregone conclusion that Kristin is going to win it, but she should absolutely be a heavy favorite even over the field.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. I mean, and the thing is, Hailey King coming off of playing at a technical course at MVP was able to outplay Kristin by just enough. Yep. And I think Hailey's going to be right there again, defending the title, coming off the win. You got to feel good about her chances playing in, what's going to feel like a fairly familiar course. It's not in Charlotte, but it's got the North Carolina vibes. That's for sure.
Yep.
So I think, interesting note, Paige Pierce not playing the event for the first time since 2009. And of course, there's going to be a lot of stats like that throughout the rest of the season as Paige is out with the ankle injury. But, she's somebody that you would consider certainly a challenger if she was in the field trying to knock down Kristin, but not to be. And so lots of players still in the hunt for, first ever FPO major wins. I mean, Owen, Missy, both trying to get their first. Hailey would try to become a multiple time major winner. And so lots of stories to begin this tournament.
Yeah, this course is not going to be the gimme it was last year either. The Regulator is a 4.6 stars with 342 ratings over on UDisc. For this layout, it's a par 69, 8,750 feet. For reference, MVP's diamond layout that was played just last week is a par 60, 7,000 feet. So it's 1,700 feet longer and 9 strokes higher in par. Last year's USWDGC was a par 59 and only 6,200 feet.
Well, one of the courses, right?
Right.
There were two last year, but they were both short. And I mean, think about how significantly different that is. And it's not just the length, Josh, like the level of challenge of this course. We both just watched a full fly through drone flyover. We're going to show you a couple holes that are pretty interesting. It is not easy. And like, even though Statmando has this stat, like the amount of distance you need to throw per shot to get into the circle in regulation. And it's one of the shortest courses on tour from that perspective, that like holes tend to be a little shorter. There's a lot of par fives, but none of them are over like 900 feet. They're like, some of them are like only under 700 feet even, but it's very technical shot making. So it's not like you just have wide open spaces to bomb shots. And so even though like this course isn't like dramatically long, it's a lot longer than last year's courses and a lot more technical.
Yeah, pair it with some elevation as well. I think there's an excellent use of elevation. It's not a course that, coming from mountain golf, it's not an elevation that's designed to like just ruin your day, but it uses elevation nicely that is going to require some angle control to create variety in shot making. On a flat surface, a couple of these shots would be pretty boring, but with the elevation, they're going to require some very, very technical angle control in order to ensure that you have a good landing zone and are prepared then to approach the what is typically like a par 5, for example, on hole 6 has a downhill shot with the landing zone that where you land is much more important than the distance.
I think there will be some eagle opportunities out there on the par 5s for the big arms, but it's really going to come down to gap hitting. I mean, you're going to have to be clean off the tee. There's some very skinny gaps right off the tee pad. And if you can consistently throw 300 plus through clean gaps, even if you're just throwing putter or mid, that's going to be a recipe for success. If you get kicked off the fairway here, there's not a lot of OB on the wooded holes, but it's just bad. I mean, there's a lot of little trees. I don't know how much they've cleaned it up since the drone footage came out like a month ago or something like that. But I would imagine it's going to be pretty much, that's the course that we're going to see. Let's take a look at a couple holes. Josh, I know you and I both really liked hole 13. Very unique, and we'll show this to you if you're watching over on YouTube. Credit going out to the YouTube channel to put this together, Flying Mittens. Go check it out. It's called Course Fly Through the Regulator at Rock Creek DGC. So it's really nice. Check out the whole thing. But hole 13, Josh, par 4, you have to throw off the tee down to the edge of a lake and then throw over the water to the basket. I don't really think I've ever seen a hole like this.
I'm trying. I think there was one like last year in the wraparound season. There was one that was kind of similar that you had to play over. It's a concept that is one that is not often used, but I really do like the challenge that comes with the risk reward of pushing the water. That there are plenty of courses that have a separating OB into what is like an island green, but the water carry is just so aesthetically it's better, and it creates a level of nerve around where you're pushing that disc that I think is super interesting, especially the downhill. Your footing is going to be a big point to think about. Just where that disc is landing is going to really be critical if they're going to be able to approach for the birdie. I'm really excited to watch this whole play.
And then let's take a look at one of the par 5s. There's some looping down through. You go off the hill, down around the corner, and this is just like you have to navigate the woods. It is not an easy course. And, I think the opportunity is there to get birdies on all these par 5s because the distances aren't that long, but it's so easy to get caught up in the trees.
Yeah, the biggest thing that you're going to have to do, you only need on, especially, there's two of the par 5s are less than 650 feet. You need 150 feet per shot to have a good birdie look. Like that is doable. That is
Very
doable. It's just
that's why I think
throw a
Eagles
putter.
on the table.
Absolutely, I think so too.
So Josh, heavily wooded course. There's some Maple Hill vibes out there. I mean, hole 1 is like open, and then like into the woods onto the green, and you're like, oh, that feels exactly like a hole we would play at Maple Hill.
Spray paint the grass blue.
So let's make our picks.
Okay.
Who you going with?
Third place, I'm giving it to our Idlewild winner, Valerie Mondahano.
Okay.
When I think of a course that has little tiny twig trees that are in the middle of the fairway and are going to ruin perfectly good shots, and you have to adapt to that, I think of Idlewild. And I think Idlewild is a little bit cleaner and has been played more than this one, but the combination of the open and the closed, the elevation, I really think that Valerie is going to have a good shot here, and we might see a bounce back. I think she played well at U.S. Women's last year too. So I like her chances for this year. Second place, I'm giving it to Missy Gannon. I think that controlled, like we were talking about with the par 5s, Missy is not known for distance, but distance is not going to be what's required in order to get under par here. And that's going to give Missy a real opportunity where typically she is kind of middle of the field when it comes to the opportunity to score on par 4s and 5s. I like that a lot for Missy, and I think that gives her a good opportunity. But my winner, I'm still giving it to Kristin.
All right. Well, in my 3 spot, I'm going to go Owen Scoggins. I really just feel comfortable picking Owen Scoggins to my podium on any course at this point. And hey, she was in the mix to win the whole tournament last weekend MVP, including beating Kristin.
She was.
So I think having big arm is not going to be the difference maker out here. I mean, it gives you an opportunity to pick up a couple extra strokes, but that's not the decider.
Yeah.
The question I have is like, can Owen navigate these oftentimes tunnely shots with her flex sidearm? The answer has generally been yes, so I'm going to stick with yes.
Well, I'm worried about the elbow.
Sure.
That's why I leave.
I get that. I totally get that.
She played well at MVP, so.
In the 2 spot, I'm going to take Haley King, last year's U.S. Women's champ. You just only giving her a 1% chance is totally crazy. I mean, it just doesn't even make any sense to me. I feel like, given what we saw last week, given the nature of this course, this is a prime Haley King opportunity. I mean, she's just going to be able to throw her straight, pure shots, and I think she absolutely can win and go back-to-back here at U.S. Women's. But ultimately, at the end of the day, how can you not pick Kristin Tattar to close out the Grand Slam? This is going to... We have seen her raise her game at the majors every time this season. Every time. So why not now? There is just no reason that she's not going to step up to the challenge and do what she's done all season, which is win going away at the majors. Yes, maybe she let Missy back in the door a little bit at Worlds, but ultimately it was a comfortable final round, and it wasn't really in question who was going to win. And she just obliterated everybody at Champions Cup and at the European Open. So I think it's going to be closer. I don't necessarily think that she's going to win by 10 strokes, but I do think that she's going to win and close out one of the best seasons that we've ever seen. This is the tournament that I had circled all year as the one that was going to be the hardest for Kristin to win because of the course, and now additionally so because of the pressure.
Yep.
So
Great point.
Fascinating stuff. I think over-under for me right now is, what is the winning score over 4 rounds going to be? I mean, it's really hard to project. Josh, I'm going to throw it out to you at 20.5 under par.
That's such a good number. Because I think last year's winning score was 30 under. MVP was just
I'm
7.
projecting at a 5 under to be about... I don't know. I should never want to underestimate the how good these players are, but this course is tough. People are going to take bogeys.
Uh-huh. That's it's not that I don't think they can score well, but I just worry that there's going to be so many bogeys counteracting that. Give me the under. I think they're going to, well, sorry. I think, yeah, like they're not going to shoot 20 or better.
Yeah. I mean, okay. Haley King won with a 7 through 4 rounds at MVP. So like, I feel like this course is going to play a little easier than that. There's definitely some very gettable, easy birdie holes. But there's also lots of nasty kicks out there to be had. So we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. So I get the over at 20 and a half. So 21 under or better for the winner. I win it. Folks, you can make your own picks and check out all the picks during the season at discgolf.realtor.com/upshot-picks. Make sure you join us on Sunday night for the rapid reacts following the last FPO Major of the season. And Josh, let's enjoy what is a fun weekend. I mean, there's more women playing this tournament than ever before. Over 90 players signed up in FPO, hundreds overall at this event. It's just awesome to see the growth of the women's game.
Yep, for sure.
That is going to do it for this edition of the Upshot. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we'll talk to you next week right here on the Upshot.